Hello, it's Devin. I'm back again. I put a post on Facebook earlier about which two topics I should do, and I opted for number two. So, the first one was, how not knowing my dad, changed my life in a way. And the second one was how being molested at an early age shifted my life. And I asked you all which one did you want to hear, and many of you chose number two. So, you know, I decided to go with number two as well. I feel like it's not talked about a lot. I feel like it happened a lot amongst children and young women, and we don't talk about it enough. So that's why I decided to make a video of my own about my own experience and how I got through it. So I don't want to waste any more time with the intro, so I guess I just jump right into it. But um, I'm 30 years old now. I just started there. I'm 30. Just turned 30. So when I was 3, I remember I was playing with like some next door neighbors. It was 2 twin boys. It was like our best friends, me and my sister. And we were playing with them. They went home. And my mom was in the living room on the phone with someone. And one of our cousins came over. He was a lot older than we were. At the time I was 3. And I remember I was in the kitchen getting a snack, and then I went back into the bedroom, and we were all playing, and he shut the door, which was odd. We didn't really see him that often, but that day he did come around, and he came into the room and he shut the door when I was in there. So he then made me take my pants off, and he took his pants off. And I'm 3 years old. I'm not understanding what's going on. I just see that he's a family member, which is, when a lot of young women get molested or raped by family members, you tend to trust them since you know them. So you feel like there's no harm, so you just, do what you're told. So next thing I know, he makes me play with him. I don't want to try to make this too graphic. Like, I'm not ashamed of it, but I don't want to make this too graphic because I don't want YouTube flagging my videos or taking them down. You know how they get. But anyway, I just try to explain the best way I know how. I don't want to get in trouble. But anyway, he pulled his pants down and he made me touch his private area. And he tried to stick like a toy. Like, I had a toy that went to a doll. Like, it was like a baby bottle or something to go to like a little baby doll. And he tried to stick it in my hoo-ha. I just say hoo-ha. I don't want to say no. And he tried to stick it in my hoo-ha. And it hurt it, and I started crying. And that's when he put his pants back up. And I put my pants back on. He told me to put my pants back on. So I did. And he opened the door, and then he left. And we didn't see him for a while. And like I said, I was 3 years old at the time. I didn't know what was going on. And I never told my mom because I couldn't process in my mind what had just happened. So I never told her. So that happened. And then when I turned 5, my mom, she worked a lot. And I have a brother that has autism, so we had to help out with him all the time. We had to cook and clean and all that stuff. So when she would go to work, she had another cousin come over and watch us. This cousin was a female. And I don't know what it is about when you've been sexually abused prior, but it's like it's written on your forehead for people to try you. So this cousin would come over and babysit us, and everything would be fine. But then she would turn mean, kind of like a bully. And then she started making me do stuff with her sexually. And I'm like 5 years old at the time, and I'm thinking, this is a female, but she's my cousin. And what she would call it was, let's play secrets. She would call it secrets. She didn't want me to tell. She didn't want anybody else to know about it. So that's when you know something is wrong, when somebody tell you not to say nothing or they give it a code name. So she was like, want to play secrets? Let's play secrets. And I just got a notification. I hope y'all didn't hear that. But anyway, she would call it secrets, and she would have me do stuff with her sexually. And she even tried to touch me sexually. And that went on for a long time. It went on for a few years. And then there was another cousin. Like I said, it's like domino effect. Like cousin after cousin after cousin. Like where these predators is coming from. What, you know. So then there was another cousin. So after the first time it happened when I was 3, I didn't see that cousin again. He didn't bother me again. After him, it was the other 2. And that lasted until I was like 12 years old. This other cousin would come around, and I was still 5 years old at the time. The first time he molested me, and you know, he would just come over and do it all the time. Like, and he was my first cousin. Like, my mom and his mom, they were first cousins. So, you know, but he was older than I was too at the time. And what he would do was, he would make me take all of my clothes off. He would take all his clothes off. And what he would do was make me lay down, and he would rub his, you know what, on my clitoris. And when I was 5 years old, I had this weird sensation, and I didn't know until I got older that I had an orgasm from it. So I was 5 years old when that happened. And it seemed like after that happened, when I felt that sensation, it was kind of like it opened a door for spirits to come and bother me with that. And it was like afterward, I was chasing that feeling of the sensation that I felt. And you know, I didn't talk to my mom about it because I didn't talk to her about none of the abuse that I had went through. And I couldn't understand what it was that I felt. And that's when I got introduced to pornography as well. Because back then, you know, this is in the 90s, where they had like the cassette tapes that you can put in, you know, you watch your cartoons and stuff like that. This particular day, I found it was blank. It didn't have a label or anything on it. So I decided to just put it in there. And then when I did, it was pornography. So it was like, after getting abused, like, it was easy access to all this wicked sexual stuff. And I was just a baby at the time, so I got hooked on watching pornography. I didn't really understand what it was, but it was interesting, so I was watching it. So I got hooked on pornography when I was 5. You know, I would watch it and stuff like that. And I started masturbating by the time I was like 6 when I started masturbating. Because I was still chasing that feeling of what happened that day. It didn't happen again with him after that. But he was still like touching me and making me touch him and stuff like that. But I didn't get that sensation that I had before. So, and it felt good. So I kept chasing that sensation. So I started masturbating and watching pornography. Because I was like, okay, her stuff looks like mine, and she's doing this to it, or he's doing that to it. So I need to do it too to get the feeling back. That's how it worked in my mind. So I was perverted at an early age. And, you know, I grew up going to church. And it's like I felt at home when I went to church. You know, I like being around people that loved God. I love God. I could constantly hear his voice. He would constantly talk to me and, you know, tell me, you know, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But you know how you do what you want anyway. So that's what I was doing. I was doing all the wrong stuff. And my mom snatched us out of church when I was like 6 because our pastor passed away, and she didn't like the new pastor that we had because he was arrogant. So it was like I was disconnected from the church. I had people touching me. I was masturbating. I was watching pornography, and I wasn't even 8 years old yet. And there was another young lady. They say she was a cousin of ours, but she didn't really belong to my uncle. She just called him her dad. And I remember her making me touch her as well. Like she was grinding on me doing something. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and she had me touching all on her hips and her booty and stuff like that. And you have to be careful with stuff like that the older you get, because that's how the spirit of homosexuality crept up on me. Now, I remember the first time I thought that, maybe I was gay or something like that. I was like 11 years old, because the abuse, it continued until I was 12 when I finally told my mom. And but back to like the homosexuality, I think this happens a lot with our people, but they don't realize that this is what it is. Since I had a connection with God, not everyone is chosen, but I feel like I was always chosen. That's why the devil always been at me so hard. And I have a special relationship with the Most High. So when the spirit of homosexuality crept up on me, it was kind of like, well, I was being abused by guys. So I'm like, so I don't like guys, I don't like boys. And it was kind of like, well, if you don't like boys, then you like girls. That's how the devil would talk to me. Well, if you don't like boys, then you must like girls. And I was like, well, maybe I do like girls. I don't know. I was 5 years old. I was sleeping with one. So, that's how it kind of crept up on me. But I had to think about it too. My other friends and stuff. I had a couple of female friends at the time, and I was like, they got boyfriends and stuff, and I'm the same age as them, but I don't like boys. I don't feel the same way about boys that they do, so maybe I am gay. But I had to realize later on that I wasn't gay. It was the fact that since I was being abused by guys or whatever, that I didn't like guys. I tried to stay away from them because I felt like they would hurt me. So that's why I didn't really like boys. And then I was like, I had to think about it. I don't like girls either. I didn't like doing what I was doing with her. So I know I don't like girls. So it's like God had to steer my mind in the right direction, because I would have believed the devil and went with a girl. I believe I probably would have went with a girl, thinking that I was gay when I wasn't. I was just damaged. My other friends, they weren't being abused. I was being abused. So, of course, they're going to like boys. Nothing was happening to them. But, this whole thing with the abuse forced me to be a people pleaser, because I felt like if I made people like me, then they wouldn't hurt me. And I ended up hurting myself by doing that. I became my own worst enemy, trying to be everybody else's friend. And it seemed like when I would try too hard to get people to like me, they didn't understand why I was the way that I was, but it was like I was trying so hard to get people to like me, to the point where it seemed like they just disliked me no matter what I did. And it was embarrassing, and it made me a target for more people to bully me. So I just kind of stayed away from people, and I just isolated myself from everybody, because I started getting bullied in school. I knew when I got out of school, my mom had to go to work, so I knew that I was going to be sexually abused when I got home. So I was depressed, I had anxiety. I was acting out in school, because since I couldn't tell my mom, because there was a lot of times that she wasn't very nice either. I felt like I wouldn't be believed. So I acted out, and I didn't know how to stop. So I got a lot of whoopings. Meanwhile, all this stuff is happening behind the scenes that she knew nothing about. I'm about to drop the phone, gee whiz. But anyway, all this stuff was going on that she didn't quite know about. And, I would get in trouble in school, and then I have to come home, and she'll whoop me, and then she'll go to work, and then here come this joker coming over here to molest me, and this one want to mess with me too. And I have a brother, like I said, who has autism, and there was a couple of times, one of the cousins wanted to try to mess with him, and I wouldn't have that. So I actually took more abuse to keep them from bothering him. But it was cool because, I've always been very close with my brother. I helped take care of him and all of that, me and my sister. So I didn't mind taking the extra abuse to make sure that he was okay. because they did want to mess with him too. But I was just a misunderstood child because I didn't know how to open up. It's sad when it's your own family that does this stuff to you, but most of the time it's usually someone that you know that does, that abuses you like that, more than it would be somebody in the street. It made me feel angry. I felt like it was my fault. Maybe it was something that I did, maybe I deserved it. So just suck it up. It got to the point where it was happening so much that I would just, take myself out of my body and just be like, well, it'll be over soon. Just do it and get it over with. You should be used to this by now. And you'll be amazed at the stuff that you can get used to if it's happening often. So that's how it went from the ages of 3 all the way up to 12. When I told my mom about what happened when I was 12, she was upset, but it really wasn't anything she could do because, it had stopped a year prior to me telling her, so I was 11. So she was upset and she cursed him out, this and that. Now, the first cousin that molested me, he passed away. And another one, they passed away. But back to the way it made me feel. It made me feel, I was sad all the time. And I was very vulnerable. I felt unworthy of good things because so much bad was happening. I had a lot of racist teachers, so I had to deal with that on top of being abused, on top of my mom not understanding me and me getting whoopings and stuff all the time and, being called names and all of that. I went through it. I would say that it shifted me to be a controller. And what I mean by that is when you feel vulnerable, and it's in a bad way, when bad things happen to you and you start to feel vulnerable, the older you get, the more you want to be in control of every situation that happens in your life, how you react to it, what's happening. That way you can prevent yourself from having that familiar feeling of being vulnerable when you was hurt when you were younger. So I tried to be in control of every situation that I encountered. And that's really not a good thing because you can sabotage a lot. It made me an angry person, and I've always felt like I was very sweet. I was very loving, but I had to guard all of that because you can easily get hurt when you have a good heart, when you're an empath, when you just attract people to you, and you can easily be hurt if you let it show a little too much. So I became a controller, and I was mean. Then I started fighting all the time, and yeah, I was a mess. It was a whole mess. And when you go through abuse and you become a people pleaser, and then when people still don't like you, even though you're trying your best to let the goodness in you show, it makes you feel like the way they turning their nose up at you it makes you feel like they can see what happened too. They can see your abuse. It makes you feel like they think that, the same thing that you're thinking. Oh, she deserved it. That's what she gets. I still don't like her, this and that. Oh, she's trying too hard. It's a whole lot. It just makes you feel like everybody can see what happened when they look at you. And it makes you self-conscious. You have low self-image, low confidence, and all of that. And it's a sad place to be in. I was very depressed. From the first time I got molested, that was the first time in my life that I felt depression. And then years after that, up until I was like 26, I battled depression. Because I went through so much. and I had symptoms of PTSD, but I never got it checked out. I talked to a teacher of mine when I was in college for criminal justice. I was talking to my instructor, and she was saying how it sounded like I had severe PTSD when I told her, about some of the symptoms that I was having. But she was like, I think you should talk to somebody. You really should talk to somebody. But they quick to put people on medicine, and I don't want to do that. So I didn't talk to anybody. I talked to God. So I talked to him, and I'm like, God, please just help me. Like, I'm so broken, I'm so hurt, I just need help. And that's when he started to help me out with that. It took a while, because sometimes you're going to have setbacks to where you don't want to do what the Most High tell you to do. You kind of do your own thing anyway, and you got to pay for that. And it actually can make your journey a little longer when you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But eventually I finally came out of the depression. I no longer had signs of PTSD, and I was proud to say that I did all of that without medication. I didn't want to self-medicate, so I stopped pornography cold turkey. I did that. How old was I when I stopped watching it? I started watching it when I was 5, and I stopped watching it when I would say I was 17 when I stopped watching it, because it's filth. So I stopped watching it. What else? Oh, yeah. But yeah, like, that's my story about, me being molested and how it changed my life. But now I feel like it's good to open up and tell people about it, because I used to be embarrassed, but I'm not ashamed of it. It's part of my past. It helped sculpt me into the woman that I am now, and I love who I am. It wasn't my fault. I want to say to any of you women, young ladies that's watching, it's not your fault, but I do encourage you all to pay attention to your children. There were signs that I was being abused, and my mom never asked questions, which was crazy, because she was sexually abused a lot growing up. And, she acted out and stuff like that. So the signs were there, but she never asked questions. And I will always, say, the signs are there, I'm scared to tell her, I'm acting out and stuff. And she should know to ask questions. At least if she didn't know that I was being abused, I felt like she should at least ask questions to why I was acting the way that I was acting, because one question can open, you can open your child up with just one question if you just ask, if you just pay attention. But she didn't quite pay attention to much, and I encourage you women to pay attention to your children. If they don't like somebody, don't force them to be around them. If they don't want to go to somebody's house, or don't want somebody to come to your house to watch them, don't force it. You need to sit down and be vocal with your kids and say, oh, you just being petty, you just don't like so-and-so, this and that. They're going to come over here. And don't do that. Don't do that. Listen to your children. It's very important. Listen to your children, because it was passed down from generation to generation in my family. I'm not sure if it happened to my great-grandmother, but my grandmother was sexually abused, then my mom, and then me. So, it was being passed down, and I refused to let that happen to my children. So I had to break that up, because like, I'm the first one in my family to become an ordained minister. I'm the first person, after my grandmother, to get married and do everything in the right way and have children with the same man and stuff like that. And I just wanted to do everything differently, because the way that I grew up, I didn't want that for myself or my children. I didn't want the dysfunction. I didn't want to have all these multiple partners and stuff, and multiple children from multiple men. And I know sometimes it happens, but I didn't want that. So getting married had actually, grounded me. I'm going through a divorce now, but, I got my children, it lasted 10 years. I tried doing everything the right way. So, I'm cool with that. So I was like, I'm going to make sure that my children, they have a good family. I'm going to be the best mom that I can be to them. I'm going to always pay attention. I'm going to always listen. So it stopped with me because I refuse to have anything happen to my girls. So I encourage you women to always pay attention. Just pay attention. Signs are there, just pay attention. And if you all seem to be embarrassed if something similar happened to you, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. Because it happens to a lot of women and we don't really speak up because we're embarrassed. Even if, you were raped. I got raped too, but that's a whole nother story when I got raped. I ain't gonna talk about that one just yet. But I had a conversation with somebody, speaking of that, about why some women don't come forward about being raped. And this is very important. A lot of people don't really talk about this part of being raped. They don't talk about it. Somebody was asking, well, if a woman was raped, why she ain't say nothing, this and that, and she must have been lying. Let me explain something. Sometimes when a woman is raped, sometimes when we're raped, our body responds as if we're enjoying it when we really not. We don't want it, but it's natural for our bodies to react to sex. So it doesn't happen all the time, but there are cases where our bodies react. And it makes it difficult to do a rape test because they looking for like bruising and, they all think that, it's just dryness because it's being forced and this and that. But if everything is well lubricated, it's going to be hard to tell if you, was really raped or you just, had sex with somebody. And if a woman's body responded during that, then she's going to be embarrassed and she's not going to really say anything. And I had to explain that to the guy that asked the question, why you don't say anything. And he was blown away because he didn't realize it. They just think that it's just being forced and this and that. But if you in the right spot, it's going to, our body is going to react to it. And, a lot of us find it embarrassing. So, but if you were raped or anything, don't think that it was your fault that you said something, that you did something, that you wore something. And it's not your fault that somebody was messed up in the head and they violated you. It's not your fault. You're still worthy. You're still beautiful. You're still living. Hopefully you don't have anything you can't get rid of. We can recover from so much. So much. This has been happening to us for generations and generations. Like our ancestors went through a lot of rape and molestation and all this stuff here. And, I'm pretty sure a lot of them had PTSD from that. And sometimes it is passed down. It can get passed down to you. So you just be careful. You have to open up. You have to be vocal about what happened to you and how it made you feel. Don't just keep it, balled up inside because you become angry, you become bitter. It makes it impossible for you to hear anybody else. And I also forgave the people who sexually abused me, and I had to look at it from the standpoint of love because I love loving people. And, when I got over being angry, I had to say, for them to do that, what happened to them? Because they say hurt people, which is true. Because I was hurt and I was being mean to everybody. Anyway, I'm like, if this happened to me, then something similar had to happen to them. But somewhere along the line, they became unwired. It rewired their mind some kind of way. And, now they messing with people. Because when you get sexually abused, not all the time that person turn around and do the same thing to somebody else. It have to affect you in some crazy way to make you abuse somebody else, even though you knew it didn't feel good when it happened to you, but somehow you still doing it to somebody else. So you just have to pray for healing for them. And, you know, you have to get over your own trauma. You got to pray. You got to do what you have to do. But like I said, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. But you have to open up. You have to start talking about everything. I don't care if you don't want to talk to a person, just write it down. Get your notebook, you write it down. You know, this happened to me. You know, how did it make me feel? What will I do moving forward in order for me to heal? Because that's what I had to do. You have to find you some hobbies, some things that's different that you would like to do. Go back to school if you want to. Get out, make new friends that will getting out making friends will actually help you be more receiving of people and good people. You're going to attract all kinds of people, but keep the good ones around. If you want to try new recipes, do that. If you want to go to the gym, do that. You know, you just got to do something positive. Turn your anger into something positive. Because if you be negative, then that's exactly what you're going to get back in the world. And you're going to have that, you know, poor me attitude and, you know, feel like the whole world owes you something and nobody owes you anything. You can't make nobody be decent to you. All you can do is be a decent individual. I love being great. I like being who I am. Like, I'm so sweet. I'll help anybody, you know. And that's what I love about myself, because I can be the meanest person in the world right now with as much stuff as I went through. What I talked about tonight is just the tip of the iceberg. I done went through a lot more than that. And, you know, I feel like I still have so much to smile about. You know, I have life. You know, I have God. I have beautiful, healthy children. I have so much to smile and be happy about. I may not have much as others, but I'm happy with what I have. So you have to turn your negatives into a positive. You have to forgive and move on with your life. You have to forgive and move on with your life. So now I want to pray for y'all tonight. So we're going to pray. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for giving me the courage and the wisdom to come on tonight and talk to whoever's listening. I don't care if I change one person's life. I just thank you. I don't care if I don't get 1 million views or how many other views. I don't care about all that. As long as I can help one person change their life and their outlook on life, then that's a blessing. I want to thank you for the hard times that I have had. I didn't understand why I was going through it at the time, but I thank you for allowing me to go through all of this hurt, because now I'm using it to help other people who went through similar or worse. And I pray that you open up their hearts to forgive those who've hurt them. I pray that you open up their heart to receive life. You know, life is beautiful. It's a gift. And I pray that you open their hearts. That way they can receive the best of life, and that they can receive you and all that you have to give to them. I pray that you heal their trauma. I pray that you heal their pain. I pray that their children are covered in your glory, that nothing can come against them and hurt them. I just pray that you keep your hands on everybody that's watching tonight, and those who aren't watching tonight. If they're going through, God, I ask that you deliver them, and that you continue to love on them. And I thank you, Father. In your name I pray, amen. I love you all. Have a good night.